again to another video of Scribosphere. And after the recent events of watching Supernatural, it's come to my attention that a lot of TV shows do this sort of sad goodbye thing. And now, for me, I'm going to list them basically. So this is a list of 10 sad goodbyes in TV shows. Some TV shows will pop up more than once. It's not necessarily in an order. What I will say is the top one is at the top for a reason, but the rest are all over the place. But before I continue with the list, I do want to do some honourable mentions, and that is some of the cast from, well, not the cast, but the characters of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, throughout the show, we do get a lot of good goodbyes. Lincoln being one of the saddest ones in there. He just missed off this list. Agent Coulson's eventual leaving, that was pretty sad as well. Fitz, when he dies, that's sad as well. And then obviously we get this whole thing where he's actually still alive. Past version of himself is still alive. Weird timey-wimey stuff. You know, we also get goodbye for Bobby and Hunter, which is one of the saddest goodbyes I've ever seen in a TV show. But to me, just didn't warrant being on the list as being one of the biggest ones. As I said, this is a biased opinion. This is literally just my opinion. So don't bite my head off. You may have some people from Game of Thrones, which does not appear on this list. And I watch Game of Thrones, but I don't consider that being good enough to put on this list. Anyway, so starting off at number 10, and again, this is one that I was considering just putting in the honourable mentions and swapping it out with Lincoln, but this is Alison from Teen Wolf. Her death. Yeah, these aren't just goodbyes, by the way. This is also deaths. Actually, they're all pretty much deaths except for 2. So you know. Anyway, yeah. So Alison's death in the later seasons of Teen Wolf was pretty shocking to see. It's not something you expect to see from a main character. You're thinking, well, these are going to last until the very end. No, Alison, goodbye. And it's pretty sad to watch as the characters start to deal with what is happening and what has happened, and it's just, yeah, it's pretty upsetting to watch, while also thinking, what the fuck are they doing, you know? So yeah, number 10, Alison, rest in peace. At number 9, this one obviously should be higher if you were doing a ranking list and if it was like that kind of list, but as I say, these are not in order. But coming in at number 9 is Joyce, Joyce Summers from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe. Obviously, her depart from the show is one of the best episodes ever. The Body, which is technically her last episode, is one of the best ever episodes of television out there anywhere. You come to me and point out an episode of a TV show that's better than this. They take away the music from it, so it's essentially just silence throughout the episode, except for the speech, like, you know, except for the talking and, you know, sort of like crying and the odd noise that's in the background. But it's an absolutely brilliant episode, and that moment when Xander punches the wall absolutely gets me every time. The way these characters react to Joyce's death is the exact way that people react to death in real life. You know, it's a sort of like, oh, okay, we've got to go see them. Do I really want to wear this colourful t-shirt? Do I want to wear black? Is black a little bit too disrespectful? Would the person like what I'm wearing? That sort of thing obviously comes across with Willow, but then there are like Xander with the anger, Anya with the, obviously there are people you could consider Anya being the sort of child of it all, because she doesn't quite understand what is going on, she doesn't understand how to react to what is going on, and sort of what a child would be like in that instance. Tara being the supported girlfriend to Willow is sort of like, again, not necessarily the child of it all, but she's sort of like there to say to Willow, well, I really don't know, Willow. Um, Buffy and Dawn obviously react in the way that you would expect the daughters to react. And Giles sort of kicks in as that father figure. Like, he sort of becomes the father figure. Anyway, I mean, he's always been the father figure throughout the series, but in this moment, it really kicks in. And Buffy's in shock. Buffy's in complete and utter shock. Dawn is pissed because she feels like there's more that could be done, and it's not the case. The case is that actually she's gone, and that is what is one of the best episodes of television ever. So, at number 8, and this is where I come back to like the British side of things. While I don't see it as being very upsetting when rewatching it, but when you first watch this, yeah, it is. And my number 8 is Rose, Rose Tyler, Doctor Who. Her departure from the show was kind of like, okay, well, thank God she's going, because I was sort of getting bored of her to a certain extent. But they gave her a chance to obviously come back in later series, which they do bring her back in later seasons, which is quite good. The way they do it, how they do it, where they do it, when they do it, it's really well written. But yeah, it is pretty upsetting to watch as Rose and the Doctor are blocked off forever, never to see each other again. And I do, maybe on the odd rewatch I might shed a tear, but it's just not, for me, it's not like Joyce levels, but it's certainly up there, It's, as a goodbye and as a way of leaving a show, is pretty good for me. But the writing is what is the best in this. So, yeah, Rose and number 8. Number 7, similar to Rose, but for me this is like pretty hard when watching it. It's hard to watch. Okay, I'm not talking about that. It's hard to watch, and that is the 10th Doctor when he's going, and he says, I don't want to go, and it's very upsetting to watch, and it's very interesting to see that, like, even though technically speaking he is not going, the actor himself is going, but technically speaking the character is still not going. But in this moment he doesn't know that. In this moment he actually thinks he's going, and that's where the emotion comes from. He actually thinks he's going to die, and that he's got nothing left. And then of course he regenerates into Matt Smith and finds out that actually he has. So it is hard hitting. So at number 6, and I've got Supernatural first entry into this list, and that is Charlie. Now Charlie's a funny one because I've put it in this list. It's not necessarily a good goodbye. She's killed off screen for starters, which pisses me off. You do not kill off a character like Charlie off screen. You do not kill off a character like Charlie full stop, but killing her off like that really did piss me off. Yes, they bring her back later on, and yes, they get rid of her again. But I'm talking about this first time they get rid of her, and it pisses me off. But it's worth a mention that Charlie leaving the show and the way she left the show, that's why it deserves to be on the list. As I say, I never intended this list to be the best goodbyes, but also having a bit of a, you know, goodbyes that we can talk about. And in this case, Charlie is one of those. Charlie is an absolute piss tech when you're watching Supernatural, and there she is in the bathtub dead, and it's just so frustrating. Um, and I just can't. It really pisses me off, and I'm gonna move on before I get even more pissed off. So the next one for me is the saddest in Doctor Who history. Um, at number 5 is Donna Noble. Um, as a character, she's absolutely brilliant. She's probably in the best season with David Tennant. Brings out David Tennant's fun side way, way over the top. You know, you always get that in season 2 and 3 of Doctor Who, but in this season in particular, Donna really brings the Doctor back out and brings him back to what he was. You know, sort of that playful Doctor, and not just moping around Time War and Martha Jones and Rose. And it's like, no. Donna comes in and brings him back to what essentially was, his fun side. But obviously, the way Donna leaves the show is upsetting. It's so upsetting to go through all that to save those planets, to help the Doctor along the way, and then to be, to have her memory taken away because of what happened with the Meta Crisis and the Meta Doctor sort of thing. Why? It's really upsetting. It's actually upsetting to talk about. She went through all this, and the Doctor in the end just touches her head. I know it sounds weird, but he's just like, does he think about it really? Obviously he has to save her life, but at the same time, is it a mercy killing? Because at least that way she'll remember everything, and then she lives on without remembering it, and it's really upsetting. Not just from a Donna point of view, but obviously because Donna wouldn't know, but it's actually more upsetting for a Doctor point of view, and Donna's grandpa, Bernard Cribbins, I forget his name. Why am I forgetting his name? God, I love Doctor Who. Why am I forgetting Bernard Cribbins' name in bloody Doctor Who? It'll come to me. But as grandpa, just call him grandpa for the time being. It's really upsetting, and that's not coming to me, the name. Yeah, but it is really upsetting to watch, and Wilf, sorry, came to me then, Wilf. Yeah, so it's really upsetting to watch Donna say goodbye to the Doctor, because she has no choice in it whatsoever. And number 4 is one that I've actually recently rewatched, The Walking Dead, and picking just one of these is hard. Like, Glenn's a honourable mention. Abraham's an honourable mention. There's so many honourable mentions. Sasha's an interesting one, because I really liked. I didn't like Sasha at first, and then I really liked her, and then she got killed off. So I was a little bit peed off with that. But the one that hit me the most was Cole, and that's why he's at the number 4 spot. Cole is really upsetting to watch as he dies. He's got all these requests, he's got all these letters he made, and it's really hard to watch. And then obviously he shoots himself. But it's just, it lasts a whole episode, and it's like, he was just saving somebody. That's how he went. That's how he dies. He got bit. And it seems to be that, they're doing it really well, where it's like, it's a character that Negan quite liked. And then when he finds out he's dead, he's actually pretty upset. He looks like he's gonna cry. But yeah, Cole is just, it's a character that is funny. It's a character that grows on you. At first he's really annoying. He's a little kid, you understand it, but he's annoying. Then he gets more annoying, and then he becomes a little shit. But as time goes on, you sort of realise that even though you're thinking he's going from little shit to little shit to little shit, he's actually becoming a lot better of a character, and that's why Cole gets that number 4 spot. It's like, as I say, these aren't rankings, and I keep having to say that because I keep going back to this is why it's number 4, but this is why it's on the list, is because Cole as a character, while getting annoying, also, like, you know, imagine this is the annoying scale, right? And, like, he's here at the annoying scale, and the likeable scale is here when it starts. And it gradually goes up, but eventually, the likeable scale is up here when he dies. And the annoying scale is sort of, he's only inched up a little bit. So, you know, that is the way I can explain it. Carl as a character is brilliant, and I did, you know, enjoy his journey and the way he ends, you know. Obviously in the comics, now I've only just started collecting the comics. I've only got volume 1, but while watching the show, you know, I've been spoiled to what happens in the comics, and I know that Cole does survive in the comics. He's one of the last ones, along with Sophia. So, you know, it's a Neon, you know, so yeah, Cole at number 4. So number 3 is Buffy. Now, I was going to put Buffy in here at season 5's Buffy end, but while at the time I was upset because I had a big crush on Sarah Michelle Gellar as I grew up, and when I saw she died in Buffy, I was really upset. But when rewatching, I realised there is actually a goodbye that is worse, and that is Spike. You know, having Buffy say that she loves him, and then Spike's like, "No, you don't. Don't say it if you don't mean it," sort of thing. It is such a heartbreaking way to see Spike go. Obviously, yeah, he does come back in Angel season 5, right from the moment that happened, but it is such a hard watch to see Spike, a character like this, who's been so influential on the show. You know, he started out as a villain, then he became a really bad villain. And when I say really bad, I don't mean like, you know, completely nuttery, killing everybody. I mean, he went from like, okay, I'm going to use my hand scale again, but like this is what he went. This is him as a villain at the start of the series, right? He's about here. Then he sort of drips down a bit because he's become a sad villain and a bad villain, and then he starts to creep up again to the dark, but then he hits lower and lower, and then the good scale comes up here. You know? So, while morally speaking he's not the best character, he's the best character in the show, he's my favourite character in the show, but morally speaking he's not. You know, for what he does, even from his past to his present, you know? So, yeah, Spike's ending and Buffy saying that she loves him, and he's like, no, you don't. It's sad. It's really sad. So, number 2, moving on to another show that, again, it was interesting that I didn't put any others in this, but for me, it doesn't, you know, there's nothing that rings true more than this death in a TV show, and that's Smallville, and Jonathan Kent's death. You know, his heart attack. I mean, really, it's so hard to watch because you know that Clark has turned back time to save Lana, but then obviously Jor-El said that it has to balance, and you see all these things happening to all these different characters, but in the end it's Jonathan who has a heart attack. Now, obviously, we know that Jonathan never did live long enough to see Clark become Superman. You know, there are obviously going to be comics out there where Jonathan Kent did live long enough to see him become Superman and then die. But in the mainstream, Jonathan Kent dies when Clark is pretty young, and in this case, it's the same. You know, and it's so upsetting to watch. He's a brilliant Jonathan Kent. Jonathan Snyder, as an actor, is absolutely brilliant. and you know, I don't see anybody else playing such a brilliant character. Like he's the most memorable Jonathan Kent that there ever will be. And if they ever make one that's more memorable, fair enough to them. But I don't think it's gonna happen. So yeah, that's number 2. Now number 1, and I think you'll be surprised that my number 1 spot is not Sam or Dean Winchester, because as you know, I am the biggest Supernatural fan. Supernatural is the show for me, but you know, but there is one that I have to say is more piercing than watching Sam and Dean go. I cried like a baby at the end of season 15 of Supernatural. By the way, spoilers for Supernatural before I go on. If you haven't watched episode 18 onwards, do not watch from this point on. But for me, I could have put 17 quite easily at the top of this list. But the amount of times I die, you know, while I did cry like a baby at the end of season 15 of Supernatural, it wasn't something that was going to ever ruin, you know, for me. But Castiel's end in season 15, episode 18, and he tells Dean he loves him. He's really upsetting, and he leaves Dean with a mark on his arm, which, like, obviously is from blood, which is the exact same as when he raised him from, you know. So it is really upsetting to watch Castiel go like this. He says his goodbye to Dean. He says he loves him, and then Dean is just sitting there on the floor against the wall, crying his eyes out, and it's like they captured what the audience would feel in this moment. They really do. And I've got to give it props to the writers. But that is exactly how we feel by the end of the episode. Just literally sitting against the wall, crying our eyes out because Cassie's gone and he's just told Dean he loves him. You know, he's happy. But that is my list. Obviously, this was a list, but it was because of the recent episodes of Supernatural that made me want to watch these. That made me want to do this list. So, the next list I'll be doing, while it is of course Christmas time, I will be doing the Alien franchise. The Alien franchise is very soon. So, I've been Scribble. This has been Scribble Sweet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.